Hello crafters, I'm Sari3 and I'm here to teach you some tips on how to finish your cross-stitch projects. Specifically, today we'll be talking about how to make your own stretch canvases. Now, it's no secret that I love working with the pre-stitched canvases from Michaels. If you've seen my Etsy or bought the Stardew Valley cross-stitch book, you'll have seen a number of my patterns finished on these little squares. I have so many of them at this point, I don't know what to do with them. Now, you can get the pre-stretched squares at Michaels for a reasonable price, but their quality has really gone down over the years. Plus, what if you're somewhere that doesn't have a Michaels, or maybe you want a larger canvas, or maybe you want a smaller canvas, or maybe you just want a differently sized canvas. You're gonna have to make your own. But this also means that you can stitch in your normal hoop or Q-snap and then stretch it over the canvas so you don't have to try to stitch around the wood, which can get pretty annoying, honestly. There's plenty of benefits as to why you would want to stretch your own canvas, and they're pretty easy to do once you get the hang of it. I have a text-based tutorial on my website if you prefer to follow along with photos and text rather than video. I will link that in the description down below. Now, I must warn you that I filmed the following tutorial literally 3 years ago and never got around to editing it, so I will put some text on screen if I have learned anything since then. I am sure you're eager to learn how though, so let's get started. First up, materials. Okay, so materials. First you'll need stretcher bars, and whatever size you want your finished piece to be. They do come in packs of 2 so that you can mix and match the height and width. They don't have to be perfectly square. For example, the large Skyrim Constellation piece, my bars were 34 inch by 18 inch. I've also used one of these small 4x4 canvases before, but for today's project I'll be using these 6-inch bars from Edmunds. I haven't found any other company that does small pieces other than Edmunds. That's why I ended up having to buy pre-stretch canvases like artist canvases in the smaller sizes, but we'll talk about that one later. You'll also need a staple gun and, staples. They're actually pretty cheap, but I just stole this one from my partner instead. You'll need a finished cross stitch with plenty of extra fabric around the border. Depending on the stretcher bars, you'll need up to 4 inches of fabric so that it wraps around on each side. You can get away with less, and I will discuss some options later if you've got a finished piece that doesn't have a lot of extra room, but ideally you've thought a bit ahead. Optionally, you'll want thumbtacks, push pins, or something like that so that you can get your fabric in place before you start stapling. You might also want to add a hanging mount on the back for hanging, but that's up to you. I don't. But that's about it. Let's start getting this piece all finished up. Alright, the first thing you want to do is assemble your frame and get it out of the packaging. Okay. They should fit together pretty easily at the corners. Oh, I'm doing it backwards. Okay, my last pair was easy. This one is being when all else fails, beat it with your staple gun. It really depends on the brand, whether or not they're easy to put together. This one usually is, but I guess I got a bad batch. I mean, honestly, it's probably a good thing that they're tight. That way it's not going to fall apart easily. If you have an actual hammer, you can use that, but I don't feel like going to get it, so just be thankful I'm editing out the sound of me banging on this. Alright. Make sure you try to line them up at the outer edge just so there's not like bumps. You can actually staple the corners just if you don't want them to slide while you're working. This one I'm not too worried about it sliding. Some brands, they definitely do slide about if you don't staple them in place. If you do staple the corners, make sure you're doing it on whatever side will not be the front of your canvas. This one, they're pretty even, so it doesn't matter which side is the front, but some of them have like a ridge for holding it forward, so you want that on the front. Now, you can wash and iron your piece first. I certainly did. It's all nice and clean. Well, it's mostly clean, and it's definitely ironed. But remember, you can't wash it afterwards, so if you want to, make sure you do it first. Now lay it flat on your work surface, back side up. Yes, I'm showing off my back. Enjoy it while you can. You want to place the wooden frame and center it as much as you can. That looks good. If your fabric doesn't reach all the way around, you can tack on some extra fabric, or you can just leave it like that. I'm gonna leave it like that. Now, I mentioned the push pins because we're gonna pin it in place. Maybe. These are thicker than I remember. More banging. There we go. So I like to use these to hold it in place so that you can check to see if it is centered on the canvas. It looks like mine is a little bit to the left, but not too bad. So let's pull these out, slide it a little bit over. And check again. They don't have to be in the other very deep, it's just to make sure you're straight. Yeah, let's say that's good. Once you've got it straightened, we want to start stapling. If your canvas won't be square, I would recommend starting on whatever the longest size is. But regardless, staple your fabric to the center of one of the sides. Come on. Now, on the other side, make sure you're pulling it a little bit tight, since it's, supposed to be stretched. Make sure you're doing the opposite side and actually getting the fabric. Whoops. My tiny stapler has a staple remover. This is why we typically do the push pins first. But you do you. Let's try that again. So we want to pull it tight. This is also why I like having extra fabric on it, because then you can't miss. Make sure it's pretty taut. And then we'll start on the other opposite sides. Pulling it tight. The safety. All right. This is your last chance to check to make sure it's even. It's pretty easy to remove staples now, but once you've got them all in, it's going to be a pain. I think we look good. So let's start around the sides, doing a second batch. Come on. I'll put one on each side. Obviously, if your canvas is larger, you'll end up with more staples. They clearly don't have to be even, but if you want your back to be aesthetic, then you can measure and even them out. I don't really care. Then again, we do, sorry, Again, we do the opposite side first. That way we make sure these are in place. It's looking pretty good. One more. And the opposite side. Eventually, regardless what size frame you have, you will get to a corner. I do not have good advice for this. I just kind of tuck it into one of the sides and fold it over. We'll see that again on another corner, and I'll try to show it off better. But you can also look at videos of how artists make their canvases, like painters, and you'll probably see much more professional corners. But here, let's try this again. I didn't end up needing the pliers, but okay. So I am tucking this corner in as well as I can so that this fabric is flush. You technically should be doing the opposite corner. It's going to make it a little better balance, but here we are. Do what I say, not what I do. Cool. Yeah. This one's a little bit close to the edge, so it's going to make it harder to tuck in. I'm going to use the point of some scissors to carefully, without cutting the fabric, push it in, and it's not working. So what else do I have that's small? A random pen. No? Pro tip, don't put your staples so close to the edge. I'm actually going to pull that one out and redo it. Maybe I do need the pliers. Okay. I didn't list those on the materials because if you do everything perfect, you may not need them, but you know, who is ever perfect? How did I... Well, first, let's staple this side down so that it's not moving around on me. A bit further away from the corner this time. Get out. And no, I'm not editing this out because I want you to see that no one is perfect and it will still turn out okay. There we go. I should probably put those before I stab myself. All right. Once again, we have a staple a little too close to the edge to make this easy. So I'm gonna pull it out again because I'm stubborn. Or I'm gonna try to. Anyway. Nope, that one's in there pretty good. Let's tuck it this way then. That one's not too close. being super professional. And the more you do this, the easier it'll be. Excuse you. There we go. Try not to staple your fingers. And then I'm going to cut all of this fraying off. If you want to prevent fraying entirely, you can put some fray check along the edges before doing this, but it's not super necessary. And there you have it. A stretched canvas piece ready for hanging. Now, I don't have any hanging mounts, but you would put it up here, that way it hangs on the hanging mount. I usually just have it rest under the wood, but keep in mind if your nail sticks out further than the wood, it can push your canvas forward, and that won't look nearly as nice on the front. Regardless, I think it turned out pretty good. You can still see the back. Now, if you don't want to see the back, you can get the pre-stretched canvases for painting and stretch it over that. That way the back you'll see is the inside of the canvas. But I like showing off my back. Every back is beautiful. It shows what paths you took to make it, which colors you did first, which colors you did last. It's very interesting. Now, I haven't really found bars that are shorter than those 6x6 inches I told you, so if you want a smaller one, you'll have to get a little bit creative. You can use these pre-made artist canvases and place your stitch over the canvas, and I will link you to these small ones I found below. Now, if you leave it like this, it will hide the back, so if you're concerned about the messiness of your stitch, it's up to you. They also tend to be white, so it can show through the holes in the fabric if they're thin. This one's pretty thick, but especially dark coat fabric might show through. Now, I like my back to be visible, so I'm actually going to take this small canvas apart and repurpose the wood. Where are my pliers? Here we go. You could take out the staples, but I found it to be kind of a hassle on these smaller ones. And since they're probably industriously put in. Not that this seems to be any easier. Oh, that one came with the staple. This is what I was talking about earlier, where some stretch canvases have this raised edge. That's to keep the fabric or canvas a little bit away from the wood. So we're going to place our little stitch right here. I'm going to try to get it pretty centered. I don't have a ton of extra fabric, but it should be enough. If I wanted to, I could always sew another piece onto it, but should be fine. We're going to do the same thing as before. Let's gauge to see if it's centered. That finger width there. Hey, get back in there so I can see what's going on. I think it needs to go a little bit to the left. Or, yeah. That is the left, right? If you don't have tacks, you can also kind of do this by hand. But if you have 4 hands, it might be more useful. Yeah. 1, 2, now it's a little bit top heavy. Take your time with this step. Make sure it's centered. Get out a measuring tape if you want to. I've just eyeballed it, but it is up to you how precise you want to be. Still look good? Aw. All right. Staple one side. Again, flip it around and do the opposite side. Get out of here. You can use the old staples as kind of a measure. All right, we're on to the dreaded corners again. You'll see that this, again, is a dyed fabric, so it actually folds pretty easily compared to that other one. I try to keep my corners all folding in the same direction so that it looks a little bit more uniform. But if it's hanging on your wall, how often are people going to really look at it, you know? That's kind of a rough corner. Get in there. Thank you. I take it back, this fabric does not want to cooperate. You could also use this technique to frame other fabric, like say a t-shirt that you've outgrown but you still like the design on it. You could hang it on your wall. Give it a second life. Okay. Wow, that did not stay well. I've already lost the other stapler. Oh, here it is. Nope, not coming out. What we can do is push it a little bit forward and put in a second staple. No one will notice. It'll be fine. Well, you guys will notice because you're watching, but and there you have it. 2 stretch canvas pieces ready for framing, or hanging rather. All right, I only had one other one on hand. I'm not gonna bring down the giant Skyrim Constellation one. It is too large to fit on camera. I'll take some B-roll of it later. But this is one that the pattern I converted from some art by the artist Frenini. It's adorable, but you can see it's pretty much finished the same way. This fabric's a little bit longer, and I noticed because this is hand-dyed fabric, it's a lot more soft and pliable, so I did not have any issues getting the corners. There's actually a video of me putting this one together on my Instagram Reels if you'd like to see it. But because this one is, 14 count Aida and probably starched to all hell, there was some struggle. I did wash it beforehand and it is softer than it was when I was stitching it, but not by much. Regardless, they both turned out pretty cute, if you don't mind my saying. As I mentioned earlier, I linked a text-based tutorial in the description below so that you can reference it while you're trying it yourself. If you've learned something from this video, please leave a like, and if you'd like to see more tutorials from me, check out my website instead. I haven't been posting very much on YouTube, I am sorry. But I have been posting text-based tutorials on my website every single month. There are over 90 of them now. Articles get voted on by my patrons each month, so if you'd like to influence what I talk about, whether it's text or video based, and you want early access to said articles and videos, check it out. Plus, patrons also get 2 new cross-stitch patterns every month, such as these 2 I released for January. Finally, don't forget to join us over on Discord if you would like a fun place to chat with other stitchers in order to pick up tips and tricks, join in on community swaps and events, and just generally have a good time. Whatever you decide to do next, keep creating. And I'll try not to take so long before editing the next video, which will probably be about making a cross-stitch switch dot cover, because I filmed that tutorial about 2 years ago now. In fact, I'm gonna go film that intro now so that I don't have an excuse to put off editing it even longer. Okay, bye. Don't forget to join us over on Discord if you would like a place to chat with other stitchers. Pick up ticks? No, please don't pick up ticks.